Well, hey there, campers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Camp Cryptid. I'm your host, Erica Fett. And as always, I'd like to start off the episode by thanking everyone so much for chiming in and listening to my last episode all about my favorite films of 2024. And whether it was sci-fi or horror or even a thriller movie, I'm so excited that you guys liked my list for the year. And also that some of you checked out some of my favorites and that you enjoyed them too. So it always makes me happy when I give, suggestions or recommendations and you guys actually like them, because then it's like, yes, because there's nothing worse than when I give a recommendation and it sucks, right? So thank you all so much for enjoying that list and, leaving your comments for movies that I needed to watch, because actually after that episode, as soon as I finished the episode, there was about 5 movies that popped into my mind. And I was like, of course, I forgot that movie. Like, great. But yeah, I'd really like to thank everybody so much for checking that out. And, while I'm on the topic of movies for the beginning of the year, I thought it would be kind of good to do a quick fun episode about my favorite Bigfoot movies that are out there. And a lot of you know that when I started doing research for cryptids and folklore, I started with Bigfoot. It was one of the things that kind of drew me into the subject in the realm of the mysterious world of cryptids and folklore and stories. And it's one of those things that I really, really was drawn to. And, it's one of my hopes that one day I can actually publish a book about all of my compilation of stories and stuff about the Ohio grassman, because that's one that's very close to me here in Ohio. And, whether it's firsthand stories or encounters or, stories over the years that were published in newspapers, I think that it's something that's really fun to dive into, and kind of like explore this world of cryptids and all that goodness. But I've done episodes all about the, Yeti of the Himalayas, the Ohio grassman, Sasquatch, and Bigfoot sightings. And it's just one of those things that really excites me. I mean, when it comes down to it, Bigfoot is the king of the cryptids, right? Like, it is one of those things that no matter where you are in this world, someone knows what Bigfoot is, right? And different areas of the world have different, interpretations in their own, kind of Bigfoot. That's where you get the Yeti and the skunk ape and the Yowie and stuff like that. So I think it's really, really fun to dive into, the stories and legends of those cryptids. And when it comes to the research, while I do read books and academic journals based on those cryptids, it's fun to also dive into cinema and film, because seeing how people tell those stories and portray those cryptids is also really interesting and fun too, because there's a million Bigfoot movies out there, right? And, we have I don't want to spoil my list, but you have Bigfoot represented in every way, from like this lovable Harry and the Hendersons type of feel where he's living with a family and he's just silly and nice. And then you've got other representations of him where he's like this carnal beast that will just tear you to shreds, right? So I think it is really interesting to kind of look at that portrayal of Bigfoot in, media like that. So I thought it would be great to start off the year with more film reviews and some of my recommendations for Bigfoot films, because I can't tell you how many times I get people asking me what my favorite Bigfoot film is. Now, when it comes down to it, cryptid popularity has really surged in the past 5 years, and whether it's Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or Mothman, because Mothman is kind of blowing up right now too. It's no surprise to me that the surge of cryptid popularity has just, expanded completely. And, you can go anywhere now pretty much and find anything like stickers and mugs and t-shirts, all with cryptids on it. And especially Bigfoot. I mean, Bigfoot, I can't tell you how many people send me Bigfoot stuff, like whether it's like on people's trucks or t-shirts. And I have so many Bigfoot t-shirts. I'm actually wearing a Bigfoot shirt right now. I was in between this one and my Shag Store Planet of the Apes shirt, but I'm like, I have to wear my Bigfoot one for my Bigfoot episode, right? So here we go. Now, when it comes to my favorite Bigfoot films, I did a YouTube video, oh my gosh, so long ago. I want to say like in 2020. I did like my top 5 Bigfoot films. And I would have to say that list is pretty much still the same. I've watched a lot of Bigfoot films since then, right? But I do have some honorable mentions that have come out since I did that initial list. And I just think it's really, really fun to talk Bigfoot. And getting into my list today, I want to start out probably with one of the movies I watch the absolute most. I watched this movie. I wish I was kidding, but I don't actually wish I was kidding. But I watched this movie so many times, and it's Willow Creek. Willow Creek is probably one of my top favorite Bigfoot films, and it will always be probably my top Bigfoot film of all time. But it's a found footage, and if you haven't seen it, it's really great because they go to Willow Creek around Bluff Creek, California, and they're trying to, find Bigfoot. And to me, it's an incredible film. I think that it is so well done. It is something that, it's great for rewatch value. When I've gone back through and watched it after I, initially watched it, there's like little things you catch that you didn't catch before. And you're like, oh my gosh, it was right there in front of me. And so I think that's really, really great about that film. Plus, it's very suspenseful, and it's, out in the outdoors. And to me, it's realistic. When it comes to the way that I feel like Bigfoot would be, that's exactly how I feel like it is. Now, it is also written and directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, and I will say that I want to give him so many praises for this movie because it is honestly, I could honestly rewatch this movie right now, every day of my life. I love this movie. I think it was so well done. And it's one of those movies that I am honestly patiently waiting for a part 2, kind of I don't know, when you watch it, and if you watch it, you know that there could probably definitely be a part 2. But it's honestly, even if there's no part 2, it is still, God, it's so good. I love that movie. And to me, it is a little bit more of a thriller. It is more of kind of like a slow burn. There's little things along the way that you're like, ooh, I don't know about that. But to me, it is kind of like a great documentary style film mixed with thriller and mixed with horror, and mixed with realism. And I really enjoy that about that film. Now, when I talk about, Bigfoot being represented in different ways, you have these scary ways that he's represented. But like I said, you also have Harry and the Hendersons, which is the first Bigfoot film that I can recall ever watching as a child. I remember watching this film as a child in my grandmother's living room. And I just remember, spoiler alert, I know this was in the 80s and everybody should have seen this by now. So spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Harry and the Hendersons, skip the next 10 seconds. But it basically broke my heart when I was a little kid watching Bigfoot go back into the forest. I just remember turning around and being like, no. I was in tears, don't leave the family. I know he wanted to return to his own family, but as a child, that just it just broke my heart. Yeah, so when it comes down to it, Harry and the Hendersons is kind of a classic Bigfoot film. It's family friendly, it's sweet, it's whimsical, it's fun, it's lighthearted. And to me, if you really want to introduce your kids into the world of creatures and stuff like that without being too scary, I think Harry and the Hendersons is a great way to introduce them. And it's a great kind of gateway into the world of creatures. And it's so perfect. And it has John Lithgow in it, I think. I think that's who's in it. It's been so long since I've seen it, but it's such a classic. And honestly, it is so sweet. And honestly, that had to make my list because it's it's a classic, right? So Harry and the Hendersons, definitely on my top 5. Now, one that's kind of more of an action, drama, suspense film that I honestly, it took me a second to watch this because of the title. I read the title and my husband read me the title and I was like, that is so random. Okay. But it is The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. And listen, it sounds wild. Right. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like when you read that title, you're like, how are they going to make this work? And I'm telling you, it is the best mix of a historical action film mixed with drama, mixed with kind of the thriller suspense of Bigfoot. And it works. It works. It has I think Sam Elliott in it. Is who I want to say is in it. So when you see that he's in it, you're like, okay, he read the script, so you have to know that it's going to be good, right? You're like, there's no way he would do something that's not good. And I'm telling you, after I watched it, I said, that was so surprisingly good. It was in all the best ways it worked. And that is one I always tell people I highly recommend because that is not your average Bigfoot creeping in the wilderness, stalking people, right? This is actually a well thought out plot. And like I said, I don't want to give away spoilers, but if you just need something that's kind of an action, drama thrill. I don't even think it's like that much of a thriller, but it is so good. And that is one I would highly also recommend just because it's so different from a lot of the, classic Bigfoot movies where Bigfoot is like the scary thing out in the wilderness. Cause I mean, it's still scary in the movie, but it's not in the ways that you'd think, right? I just think it's a practical film. I think it's very, like, when it comes down to it, if there was a Bigfoot in this movie, the way that they portray it, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I get that. And it just works. So I would highly recommend that one too. That's probably one of my absolute favorites as well. Now, another action flick that I really, really enjoyed is Big Legend. And that one was really, really more of like an action thriller type of feel. It was really, really good. And this one depicts Bigfoot as like this crazy, like super strong, like Hulk, right? And he's just massive. He's scary. The way that he's portrayed is really cool. They did a great job with his character design. And I think that this one is a really good like action film when it comes to Bigfoot. I messaged the director, Justin, after this, and I said, listen, we have to have a part 2. Like, we have to. Like, it's so good. You can't leave me on this ending and then not expect me to want more. And it is so good. And the way that they set it up in the end, and I'm not giving any spoilers away, because that's my big thing, is I hate giving away spoilers because I don't want to ruin the movie for anyone. But it's like he ends it in such a way that's like so epic. You're like, okay, I have to know more. Like I need more to this story. So I think that that's really a good sign that the movie is good when you are definitely wanting more of the story to be told. And what's really cool about this movie is that Justin actually filmed it on his actual property. And it's actually, I think he's where a lot of Bigfoot sightings happen. So I think that adds like this extra like layer of like beauty to it, right? Where it's like, okay, this is someone who has been involved in a lot of like Bigfoot lore all of their lives growing up. They're filming it in an area that's well known for like Bigfoot sightings. And this is someone who's passionate about storytelling. So I just think that is so amazing. Big Legend is definitely one that's high up on my list just because Bigfoot in this one is like a hulking maniac. And I love that portrayal of him. Even though it would be terrifying to me in the wilderness. And I'd be like, no, you needed to be more like Harry from Harry and the Hendersons in my perfect world, right? So yeah, I really love that one. Big Legend. Two thumbs up with that one. Now, another one that makes my absolute top favorite list of Bigfoot films is Exist. And this is also a found footage, and I'm a huge found footage fan. I literally watched like 4 found footage films over the past like 4 days. But I love found footage. I think it's such a fun way to tell a story and adds to the feeling that you're there. Like you're actually feeling what they're feeling. You're seeing what they're seeing. And it's all like you're experiencing it together. And Exist is one that to me is kind of also like a slow burn. I don't want to give away too much. And I know I always say this now, and it's to me, the story is so good with this, and it is terrifying. It's a really good, realistic approach to Bigfoot, and it's sad. I'm like, oh, there's parts of it that make me want to just cry. But it is, honestly, it's got like comedic relief. I think that the characters are also very well written and very likable. And I think to me, that's what also makes some of these films really, really great, is that the characters are so well written and they're so good with these movies that like you grow to like the stories and you grow to like them in that universe. So I would have to definitely say that Exists is so high up there on my list. And especially if you like found footage, I can't recommend Exists and Willow Creek enough. I love both of those films so much. And that's why this top list, it will probably stay the same for like ever, because these films are just so different and so well told in their portrayals of Bigfoot. They're so different in that regard. But they're so good and they work. And that's why I also like that my list is kind of diverse when it comes to like, it's not like super, super horror, right? It's not like, oh, these are really, really scary and all kind of the same, realm of Bigfoot storytelling. No, they're all kind of different in their own way. But with that being said, I do have some honorable mentions because there have been a few Bigfoot films that have come out that I'm like, dang, that is actually very good. And one of those movies is Monstrous. And what's really cool about this one is it takes place in upstate New York, which a lot of people wouldn't really think of New York State as having a lot of Bigfoot sightings, but it does. And if you've ever been to upstate New York, you know it is absolutely beautiful. It's full of cliffs and mountains and peaks and caves and vast forests and, lots and lots of places for Bigfoot to roam. But this story is kind of, the movie Monstrous is kind of tied in with Bigfoot, but it also has kind of like a serial killer vibe to it. So it's really cool. I would highly recommend it, and that's also one that makes my honorable mention list. Primal Rage is also one that I really enjoyed. It's more of like an action horror, and I would say that this one has a really good twist. It is very enjoyable, and it takes place out in the wilderness, of course, Bigfoot. But it has really good features of Bigfoot, and I really like that. And it approaches Bigfoot in a different way. And when you watch a movie, you'll understand. But I would highly recommend that one too if you need like more of like an action horror. And my last one I wanted to mention, and I had to mention this one because it came out in the last couple years, and I'm telling you, it's so good. And it's more of a comedy, and it's like more of a comedic horror, and y'all know I love me some comedic horror. But it's 10 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. And the last one will surprise you, I think is what it's called. And it's like a Vice style documentary film, and it's so good. It has I'm like laughing thinking about it, but it's so enjoyable. And honestly, when it comes down to it, I think that this is a great kind of medium with Bigfoot lore mixed with, other things that people think that these Bigfoot sightings could be. And honestly, I think that one definitely makes my list because it's just funny and it's lighthearted and it's just a good time. So those are my favorites when it comes down to my Bigfoot films. Now, with that being said, as always, when I'm talking about my film reviews and everything, there are so many things that I have not seen. So with that being said, if you have a Bigfoot film that you're like, this is so good, please send it my way so I can watch it immediately. And just let me know if you've watched any of these and you agree that they're just like outstanding. I absolutely love them. And it's always so fun to, like I said, see how these legends and folklore are portrayed in film. And now with that being said, I will be doing another episode coming up. I'm going to be doing bi-weekly episodes from now on, just so I can kind of do supplemental videos for Patreon. So I would still like to devote as much time as I possibly can to researching topics and, putting in the time to, being well-rounded on whatever I'm talking about. So I thought that doing bi-weekly episodes would help me do that and would help me do a little bit more extensive research on these topics and kind of devote, the amount of time that I need to do what I feel is good research. Now, I will be doing an episode on werewolves coming up, and I will say I'm so excited about all of the werewolf love lately. I'm telling you, between the new werewolf movie and the Wolfman movie, and now we're getting a werewolf movie by Robert Eggers in the 13th century. Are you kidding me? It's like the gods heard me when I said the world needs more werewolf movies. And I'm so happy about that because I love werewolf folklore. I love movies. I love everything when it comes to werewolves, and I could not be more excited. So I'm going to do an episode dedicated to werewolves and, all of the fun stories and folklore about them coming up, I believe on February 12th is going to be my next episode. I have it written down here. So yeah, I just really would like to do more movie reviews because when it comes down to it, I read a lot of books. I read a lot of literature in academic journals and stuff like that. But honestly, seeing people's stories told through cinema is always a really fun way to see how these legends are represented. And so that's why I really like to tie in a lot of films with these, especially like if I'm talking about a cryptid, I always talk about movies that I recommend with it because it is fun to see, these stories come to life. But with that being said, Let me know what your favorite Bigfoot film is in the comments. And if I missed a good Bigfoot film, please let me know because I need all the Bigfoot films to watch. And also, with that being said, if there's a werewolf film that you love, let me know because y'all know I love me the Howling. I'm probably going to wear my Howling shorts for the next episode because I have these really comfy Howling shorts and I'm like obsessed. But I just get so excited about cryptids and creatures. I don't know. I love it. I love it. But yeah, thanks so much for hanging out for another episode. I know that I like to talk about like Bigfoot a lot and Bigfoot's so cool. Like it really is like stories and legends of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and Yetis it's just so interesting to think about the possibilities of what Bigfoot actually could be. And I guess I'm just always one of those kids that's like, I like live in like an imaginary world where I love my imagination and I love to think about like what ifs, and I think that that's what's fun about cryptids and creatures and folklore because it allows us to kind of like dive into these, magical worlds where some things could exist and they may not exist, but that's okay. We can always keep believing and keep having fun. And, I always say it's like, Mulder on the X-Files. I want to believe. So that's me. But yeah, I hope y'all are having an amazing 2025 so far. And thanks again for hanging out for another episode. If y'all are liking what you're hearing, please go leave me a nice little review on Apple or Spotify. I love to see your little comments and stuff that you guys leave on my episodes. And it makes my day. It absolutely makes my day when y'all like what I'm talking about or y'all like the recommendations I'm giving, whether it's books or movies. It makes my day. So thank you. But yeah, wherever you are, I hope you're having an amazing day. And hey, until next time, take care.